Okay, so have you ever wondered if someone could actually get inside your head, mess with your thoughts without you even knowing?
It's a fascinating question, and not as far-fetched as it might seem.
Right. Is there a real magic script out there to make people do stuff on command? That's what we're getting into today.
Well, it's not exactly magic, but the science of influence is surprisingly powerful, and it often works in ways we just don't even realize.
Exactly. And that's why we're diving deep today with insights from someone who spent 20 years in the U.S. Navy.
Wow, 20 years.
Yeah, and he's trained the Secret Service, top military leaders, all focused on, behavior profiling, interrogation techniques, even psychological warfare strategies.
This is serious stuff.
Absolutely hardcore real-world stuff. And all this comes from the work of a leading expert in this field, someone who now teaches everyone, from CEOs to FBI agents, how to master the subtle art of human influence.
It's incredible how this knowledge can be applied in so many different contexts.
Oh yeah, and here's a wild claim from our expert. He says it's totally possible to hypnotize someone into committing murder.
Now that's a bold statement.
Right, and not in some, sci-fi movie, but in a very specific and pretty short time frame, about 40 minutes.
40 minutes?
Yeah, 40 minutes. It sounds like something out of a thriller novel, right?
It definitely does. It raises some profound questions about, how much control we really have over our actions and how much external influence can shape even our most fundamental behaviors.
I know, it's kind of mind-blowing, but that's exactly what we're going to explore today. The strategies behind controlling conversations, the tiny cues that can betray someone's true thoughts, and even the techniques that could be used to sway entire populations.
This is getting really interesting.
But you know what really got me hooked from our source material?
What was that?
Well, something that happened right here before we even started recording this. Expert had a brief chat with one of us, and just from that was able to pinpoint some of their deepest insecurities and wrote them down, sealed them in an envelope.
That's incredible.
It was wild. I'm not saying who it was yet, but we'll get to that later.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat already.
Oh yeah, so let's get started, and the first thing we need to talk about is reading faces. We spend a huge amount of time looking at each other's faces during conversations, which makes it the perfect place to start picking up clues.
It makes sense we're constantly sending and receiving signals through our facial expressions.
Right, and our expert pointed out that those lines etched by our expressions can actually tell a story. What can we learn from those seemingly permanent marks on our faces?
Well, think of those lines as a subtle autobiography written on the skin by early adulthood around 18 or 19. The repeated use of specific facial muscles leaves these faint but informative tracks.
So it's like our faces are telling a story even when we're not saying a word.
Exactly. For instance, those crow's feet around the eyes. They often reflect a history of genuine smiles. It's like the muscle memory of joy becoming physically.
It's fascinating to think about it that way. So if you see someone with lots of crow's feet, does that mean they're generally a happy person?
Visible. It's not a foolproof indicator, but it suggests that they've experienced a lot of genuine happiness and positive emotions throughout their life.
What about those little vertical lines between the eyebrows, the glabella, I think it's called, our expert said? That can be a sign of someone who frequently feels or expresses anger.
Life. You're right, the glabella muscles contract when we frown or furrow our brows in anger, so over time those repeated contractions can etch those lines into the
So if someone has really pronounced glabella lines, it might be a sign that they're easily angered or tend to hold on to negative emotions.
skin. It's possible, but again, we have to consider the context and look for clusters of cues rather than relying on a single
Now, the forehead lines were interesting. More forehead lines might indicate someone who is very socially engaged.
feature. It's thought that expressive and communicative people tend to use their forehead muscles more dynamically, which can lead to those lines
So if someone has a smooth forehead, does that mean they're not a very social person?
over time. Not necessarily just one piece of the puzzle, but it could suggest that they're less expressive or animated in their communication style.
Speaking of social signals, there's that quick, almost unconscious eyebrow raise when you greet someone.
Oh yeah, I've definitely
Apparently, about 90% of people mirror that back without even realizing it. It's like an automatic social reflex.
noticed that. It's a way of acknowledging the other person and establishing a sense of connection.
So next time you're out and about, try paying attention to people's eyebrows when you greet them. You might be surprised how often they raise theirs in response.
I'll have to try that. Now, what about the so-called skeptical face, raised cheeks and those compressed lower eyelids?